Welcome to Simple Economics with Tanvir Hashmi. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic. Important in a sense because the 21st century economics has changed. The 20th century economics focused more on economic growth and even to achieve development. Most economists in 20th century emphasize on achieving growth. So growth, growth, and growth. That was the slogan of the 20th century economics. In 21st century, things have changed, and so did economics. In the current century, economics not only focus on the things what we were focusing in the past. In addition to that, sustainability is a core topic in economics. And one of the topic which is part of that sustainability is externalities. We are going to divide this topic of externalities into 4 segments. Externalities of production, externality of consumption, then production itself has positive and negative externality. Same is the case with consumption. So you need to perhaps watch 2-3 videos to complete this course, and at the end of this course, or at the end of these videos, you can award yourself a certificate in sustainability. So let's have a look at the first case of production negative externality. In order to show you with the help of a graph, we need to draw a perfectly labeled diagram in economics. You can take price here. Alternatively, you can also take cost and benefit. I prefer cost and benefit because these are the 2 curves we are going to show in this diagram. And here I'm going to take output. If you know your market, so you could take here output of textile market, or if it is road congestion, so it's amount of traffic on this particular road. The first curve I'm going to show you as marginal cost, and this is the same costs what you use in your microeconomics, which is a combination of your fixed and variable cost. Technically, marginal cost is change in variable cost only, but here I'm going to call it marginal private cost just to make it different from the social cost. And this is the same as your supply curve, which means that your cost for every additional unit is increasing as we are taking marginal analysis here. And to show the benefit, we use our famous demand curve, which is downward sloping based on law of marginal diminishing utility, that every extra unit gives you lesser and lesser benefit, and that's why we're using marginal private benefit analysis here. This is, let's say, point E, and here is your private optimum. This is the point which we have achieved because a private sector or free market sector has resulted at this equilibrium. And this is the output private sector produces. But this activity also has some extra additional external cost on the third parties who are not even involved in this activity. And since that added to the private cost together brings a bigger or higher cost to the society, that's why your marginal social cost would be to the left of your marginal private cost, showing that this particular level of output gives higher cost to the society, including the external cost. In order to show the external cost, you can take any vertical gap because it's a parallel shift. And at this point where marginal social costs meet with your marginal private benefit is called as social optimum. And to make our model simple, since we are not going to show any positive externality of consumption, So we are going to keep marginal private benefit same as marginal social benefit. So that's your social optimum. And what's the difference? The difference is this is what society wants. This is where the private sector is producing. That means society is better off if this level of output is produced than this one. And this process, this outcome has caused the society to suffer, and this is due to this gap. And this gap, I don't have much space, so this gap is overproduction. And this overproduction has caused society to suffer more in the form of pollution or any other environmental damage, and that has to be shown with the help of deadweight welfare loss. You have to be careful in showing deadweight welfare loss, because many students have tendency to show this as deadweight welfare loss because they see already a triangle happening here. But since the outcome is not happening at E1 but at E, because this is where the actual production is taking place, and every single output here, every single output produced here caused more and more cost to the society than the benefit. So that's why this vertical gap has to be considered as an external cost in this case. And this triangle, let me call this point as E2, is your deadweight welfare loss because of this overproduction, or because production is not happening at the point what society wants. So this is how you show the negative externality of production. In order to fix this problem, there could be a plethora of methods one could follow, at least theoretically. One of them is regulations. So government could ban the production of this output if it is really damaging to the society or to the environment, or they can put extra carbon tax on it. And if you have to show the tax, you could actually pass all that tax on the supplier, onto the supplier, because they are causing it. And that's why we call it internalizing the externality, because you're passing the cost to the one who is creating this externality. In such case, if you're passing all the costs, then this private cost will shift up to the point where current marginal social cost is. But since it's a parallel shift, so you may not see the change here. And if you want to see a change, so I'm going to just shift marginal private cost up to this extent. That means the government did not impose the tax equal to the negative externality. And in reality, it's really hard to know how much externality is caused by each and every firm. So this is why it's difficult to actually mathematically calculate the real tax on to those suppliers. So in order to just show a change, so we can show a shift in marginal private cost from MPC to MPC plus tax, and that's a shift, and the new equilibrium happening here. And you can see that there is now a smaller deadweight welfare loss. This is your new private optimum, and you can see the size of your deadweight welfare loss has decreased, because those who are causing that negative externalities are paying extra tax, and the tax should be used for the benefit of the society, or to benefit those people who are affected by this externality. So this is the case of negative externality of production. We will shortly be seeing positive externality of production in our next section. Stay with me. Alright, so let's look into the second case of externality of production, which is positive externality of production. Some of the examples of positive externality of production could be the jobs created by firms for the people in that area, or training programs provided by firm A to the workers who might leave that firm and join firm B, and then firm B, they don't have to spend on the training of those workers. I'm going to draw a diagram and show you how the production externality diagrams look like if there is a positive externality. The basic information, the basic frame of the diagram is exactly the same as what we have done in case of negative externality of production. So as I said, I prefer to take here cost benefit and output here. You would be taking exactly same marginal private cost here equal to the supply curve. You have marginal private benefit equal to the demand curve, and as in previous case, this is our private optimum. That's the point where firm is at equilibrium and the private sector is producing at this point. Since this is the case of positive externality of production, which means society gains from this activity, so social cost curve is going to be to the right of marginal private cost, which shows that this level of output has a lower cost, which is equal to price, than the cost paid by the private sector, which is C1, P1 in this case. So you can see that the cost incurred to the society is lower in this case than the cost paid by the private sector. And this is the point where the society is at optimum point. So we call it social optimum point. Just like in previous case, I assume here that private benefit is equal to the social benefit, assuming that there is no positive externality of consumption taking place, to make our model simple, since this is the case of positive externality of production. So in order to find now the deadweight welfare loss, we follow the same steps as what we did in the first case. So since equilibrium or private equilibrium is happening here, where the actual production is taking place, and this activity is generating positive gain for the society. So in this case, as some of the books might also identify, they call it as a welfare gain. But I would prefer to call it deadweight welfare loss, because there is this gap. This gap shows there is underproduction. And since this product is produced less than what society wants, so there would be still some deadweight welfare loss for the society, which is shown in this case, right? And if we further go to the next part of this diagram and want to show that how an economy, how a country could achieve this level of output where the society is better off, then you need to provide some incentive to the private sector who could produce output level social optimum rather than private optimum. So the traditional way of encouraging the private sector is to give them the subsidies, like in case of electric cars, and that would shift this curve exactly to here, or in the middle, depending upon how much subsidies are provided. Or other cases could be if it is a kind of thing which directly benefit the society and it's very vital, like for example this food item, so the government could also directly provide those things. So this is our second case, and in our next video we will be looking at the consumption side, positive and negative externality of consumption. Stay with me and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Take care. Bye bye.